The great military strategist von Clausewitz said that war is the continuation of policy via other means. Paraphrasing von Clausewitz, I would like to propose to you that the new effort to delegitimize Israel that we're seeing now is the continuation of war via other means. And one of the main means that we are seeing that this war is conducted via is new media, namely the internet, and the various ways in which it allows us to communicate and to spread political messages amongst us. We at the World Jewish Diplomatic Corps have sat down for a minute to think, as Minister Edelstein proposed a few minutes ago, about what do we do about this. And we had a lengthy session in which we brought in experts, some of whom are on stage with us right now, to discuss and to think what we can do about the new media, about the central means with which this war against Israel is fought. And here we will try to offer you a condensed version of our thoughts and our conclusions about what we think the World Jewish Diplomatic Corps can do. So before we start, I'll briefly ask our panelists to introduce themselves, and we'll start with Yoav.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Yoav Adler. I work at the Embassy of Israel in Buenos Aires in Argentina. I'm in charge of Hasbara, press, culture, and new media. And as well, I'm in charge of the Center of Information, which deals with information through all of Latin America, as well as Madrid and a few in the US, the Hispanic community in US, and new media projects as well in Latin America.
Noah?
I'm Noah Pollak. I'm the Executive Director of the Emergency Committee for Israel in Washington. And previously, I was a blogger and contributor to Commentary Magazine and National Review.
Alejandro.
Hi, my name is Alejandro Donzis. I am a JD at the World Jewish Diplomatic Corps, and I am volunteer at the Latin American Jewish Congress. I run a digital agency in Argentina, and I am involved with the program against anti-Semitism on the web, in the net.
So to start off our discussion and get straight to the point, we'll ask our panelists, what is new about new media? What can you do today via the new media that you couldn't do before? Yoav.
Well, new media is a term which we have used to all of the communication and the press which happens today on computerized, on the net. The main differences between new media and traditional media is, first of all, it's on demand, anytime, anywhere. Anyone here can see news from wherever they want in the world and about any subject they want. They don't have to wait to 8 o'clock or read tomorrow's paper. The second thing, it has a dynamic life. It's real time. It's all the time changing. It's all the time reporting. The third difference is it has an interactive relationship. You can comment. The reader can comment. And the fourth, it's also, we are doing a democratization of the press. That means anyone can write whatever they want, anyone can publish whatever they want, and anyone can respond to that however they want.
Thanks, Yoav. Alejandro, you're involved with many efforts to deal with the new media in Argentina. What can you tell us about the importance of local presence to deal with the new media?
Well, first of all, the local presence give you much more credibility than the global opinions. It's not the same for somebody in Argentina to read a comment from somebody from Buenos Aires or Rosario or another place in Argentina that's from somebody from Israel. It's been increased the credibility when all the communication that you're receiving came from the same place where you live. And in second place, it's important because many of the young people is getting education from these opinion leaders that have raised by themselves into the internet. So the local leaders are being expressed in the internet and they are educating the young generations.
Thanks, Alejandro. So we've learned that the new media is indeed democratized. Anyone can participate. It's online. It's real time. And the importance of local presence, where you harness one's local credibility and one's presence, each community, each person's presence on the ground is indeed important. A future point that we thought about and learned about in our WJDC discussion is that new media actually drives the agenda in many cases for the mainstream media and the old media, and this actually can serve us to achieve political results. And I'll ask Noah to share some thoughts and experience on that.
Yeah, my background is more in politics, in political debates, and one of the things that the new media has been very, very helpful in being able to do is to create news stories and force them into the political debate that previously would simply be ignored by a media that was dominated by several central players. And this is very, very important, in particular for Israel, because there, as I'm sure everyone here knows, there tends to be a narrative in the mainstream media about covering this region, and this is a very far-flung region that's far away from most people. And so the only way the average person in America or Europe knows anything about Israel is through news coverage. So news coverage becomes the real important thing. And so if you're in a position where you can't really influence the news coverage, you have a big disadvantage. And so one of the things over the past few years that's been very important is bloggers working sometimes together and also working because they have shared interests, have brought stories and forced them into the mainstream news that the mainstream news didn't want to cover. I mean, there's many examples of during the Lebanon War of the Foxotography, which was famous, of Reuters, photoshopping images to make Israel look bad. And then there's even Washington political warfare. For example, early in the Obama administration, a guy named Chaz Freeman was nominated to head the National Intelligence Council. And this was a guy who was taking money from the Saudis and had a pretty bad record of apologetics for tyranny and massacre, and he didn't care for Israel very much either. And this was receiving no scrutiny in the press. And the way he ended up having his nomination withdrawn, because a group of bloggers in D.C. Started talking about his record, and they dug up the quotes, things he had said that were very controversial, and they kept writing about him for several weeks, to the point where the mainstream news had to go and call members of Congress and ask them to comment on the controversy. And this guy had such an embarrassing record that his nomination was withdrawn. This is only the kind of thing that's possible with bloggers who act as a real counterweight to the mainstream coverage.
So new media can actually open up the discussion in a way that enables us to achieve political results, as this example shows us. It can also open up the discussion in a way that enables our adversaries to achieve political results. And I believe Alejandro has some experience dealing with that in Argentina. Can you share that with us?
About the program?
Anti-Semitism.
Well, we started in Argentina, but this is a program that we're running in the Latin American Jewish Congress that will be cover all the Hispanic language content in the internet. And the Spanish language content in the internet is the fourth in importance in the whole over internet. And we started in Argentina as the first step to develop a program with the DAIA and with the AMIA, which are the central organizations there at the community, to start measuring the hate and the hate content that is on the internet, and start developing programs to fight this and to try to eradicate the hate on the internet. And it is getting very well, and we understand that this is the first part, and it's very important to understand how much is that content and where is the sources where they are relying.
So we're facing serious political challenges on the web and on the new media. We're also facing some internal challenges on how to deal with those. Yoav, what is your perspective? What are the main challenges that we're facing in the new media?
Well, one of the main challenges today is what we've done with the classical hasbara and not use new media. We have one challenge, and that is our classic hasbara is pointed to people who are willing to listen. That means, first of all, it's the Jewish community. We're explaining to ourselves because we're the ones who read everything that's about Israel. And second, it's people that already have an opinion and are interested, if it's the press, if it's politicians, if it's NGOs. But the person on the street is not really interested. The person on the street today knows pretty much, or he thinks he knows, and this is the way also new media affects, because this is the way the person on the street receives information. There is so much information out there that the person today doesn't really read articles or read anything. He sees a picture or a video and a few lines. And today in the world, unfortunately, in some places more than others, but people know, or they think they know, and this is the perspective, or politically correct to say, that we are the bad side and the Palestinians are the good side. We are the Goliath and they are the David. And when you come to, you want to do it to explain or to say our side, the person on the street really isn't interested in coming and seeing it. He has many more things to do. If he's in Argentina, he doesn't really have time or concerns to come and listen to a lecture or read a book about Israel. The new media offers us a way to reach the person in the street. It means that we have to be creative, but we can reach these people who are not really interested, but we have a way to bring them a message, a subtle message, on the way they consume information. That means, again, a picture and a line or some kind of sensation which they feel about Israel.
Thanks, Yoav. What is your view, Noah, about the challenges we're facing?
I want to make a sort of maybe a somewhat theoretical point about the new media and the way that the political debate works now. I remember when the internet was getting popular about 10 years ago, and people talked about it as if it was going to usher in this glorious new era of democratic debate, and it was going to be a way that everyone was going to talk to each other in a way that previously had never happened. And I think really the opposite has happened, and this is one of the big problems, which is that the internet creates communities that get to basically exist in their own ideological universe, and they never have to come into contact with other opinions. I mean, when you go and read on some of the anti-Israel sites, I mean, this is an entire community of people online from all over the world who are living in some of the harshest sites, who are living in a fantasy world, in which Israel is basically the worst country in the world, and everything Israel does is a terrible conspiracy and is cruel. And in the pro-Israel world, we have the same challenge, which is that a lot of what we do is us talking to each other. The pro-Israel blogs are read by pro-Israel readers, and it's very difficult to sort of cross those two boundaries or those two communities. And so one of the things that I think people in the pro-Israel world should think about in terms of new media is how do you get to the other side? And it's not necessarily to get to the other side to convince them, because a lot of them can't be convinced, but the point is to get to them and to do damage to them, to jam them up and to put them on the defensive.
So political discourse is actually being fragmented. Each community is listening only to itself, and there's a segmentation that's a challenge, but is also actually an opportunity, because one can tailor messages to each segment differently via the media that each segment would like to listen to. Yoav, would you like to expand a little bit on how you acted or what you think about segmenting messages?
Well, I think that one challenge that we have is the messenger. And it's actually two challenges. One is the messenger, where today, unfortunately, a lot of people who will see contact that is coming from an official line or from an official representative or from a pro-Israeli group is not considered credible. It's considered propaganda, and the public will not like to listen to the message. They'll say, "Oh, they're pro-Israel. We don't really care because they're the bad side." That's one of the problems we have. So the messenger is really important. What the new media gives us to solve this problem is, first we need to change the way we think, because if before we needed to bring a message to the press, I had to think what will pass the editor's table. I had to give a message that an editor or a journalist will publish. But today, it's public versus public. I can say whatever I want. I don't need the editor to say, this is credible, the public will read, this will sell newspapers. I can put messages that I think will never pass an editor's desk. Also, I can choose the messenger. I don't always have to come under my name or under a pro-Israeli name, but I can do it under some other groups or young people or credible sources that are considered credible. And of course, local sources. Because again, a local person that's writing on his blog is much more credible than an Israeli person that's writing on his blog to the people who oppose us.
So this leads us perfectly to the most important part of the discussion, which is what can we do about it, tachlis? And this is what we try to focus on in our internal discussions at the WJDC, putting as the bedrock of the discussion the issue of segmentation. Which segments do we target, and how do we target them in a way that's effective for them? And we have several examples. We'll start maybe with an example of very political action that perhaps Noah would like to share with us.
Turn this on. I think that one of the big divisions between what the pro-Israel community has been doing up to now, and maybe what one of the things that people are becoming aware of is a big problem in how we handle the delegitimization issue and how we can use the new media, is that I think you can really divide everything we do in response to this into a category of playing defense and playing offense. This is most of what we do right now is playing defense. We respond to charges, we respond to allegations, and we respond to these things as if there was a sort of credible, good faith effort in making criticisms of Israel. What really needs to happen in the future is playing offense. And so some of we were talking about how you use the new media in politics is we need to do a better job of setting the agenda, of moving the ball on our own, of creating problems for our rivals. In politics, what you talk about is really more important than how you talk about it. And when you play offense, you set the agenda. And one of the problems with Hasbara, as it's traditionally been defined, is it's explaining. If you're explaining, naturally, you're responding to someone else's claims. So you're always playing on their terms and on their battlefield. And so if we actually really want to turn this around, the thing that has to happen first and foremost is we stop this traditional defense Hasbara mindset and start going on the offensive against the people who are really the professional campaigners against Israel. This is simply a negative political campaign. And any strategist will tell you that the way you respond to a negative political campaign is not by sitting around and defending yourself against a bunch of false allegations. However compelling and beautifully argued those defenses may be, the way you handle it is you attack the people who are attacking you and you go on the offense. And that's something that Jews and pro-Israel people are a little uncomfortable with. It's something that I don't think comes naturally to us because we like to believe in the persuasiveness of debate and we like to believe in the fair-mindedness of the world. But in this case, that type of posture is not warranted. And so what should be done in this political arena, and this obviously is not the same as doing YouTube videos and appealing to the general public, but in this sort of very specific arena of the delegitimization war, where you have 15 or 20 key organizations and you have 100 key players who are the ones advancing this cause, who are the ones who create the narrative against Israel. You have to go after these people in a harsh way. You have to discredit them. You have to demand that they be investigated. You have to question their motives. You have to find out where they're getting their money and attack those sources. That's the way the delegitimization war is going to be won. If debate and having wonderful op-ed columns mattered that much, we would be well ahead of these people because we have the best writers and arguers in the world on our side. They've shown that through institutions and through relentlessly attacking, you can set the agenda. And if we want to set the agenda, we have to start actually following their example and going on the offensive.
Thanks, Noah. So just to emphasize, our approach at the WJDC is one of pluralism. We believe in targeting many segments via many ways, and this is one way to target the political segment, and especially those people who are vehemently against us. Alejandro has done quite a bit of work targeting another segment, which is the legal community and the government, which has a lot to do with the new media as well. Can you share that with us?
Well, no, I will take something from Noah. He spoke about taking the offensive, right? And I think that we have to place in the internet a lot of content which is in favor of Israel, a lot of content which is offensive to the people who want to hurt us. But we have to start adopting measuring decisions that can't let us put the rules on the internet, for example. If we are not going to tolerate hate demonstrations, we are not going to tolerate anti-Semitism in the real world, we have to start thinking about not tolerating hate and discrimination in the internet. And that is possible. And we have to work for that. And we have to establish for that many course of actions and get involved the people who is really who is really responsible for this, which are the hate organizations. For example, in Argentina, we're working on this program, and we are getting involved with the INADI, which is the institution who is responsible from the government to fight against discrimination. And this is very important because getting involved, the INGOs and this kind of part of the government, we can get the force to start fighting this back.
Thanks. So we've gone from the very directly political approach to perhaps a more neutral approach that is trying to set rules that would be more civil and more conducive to a more civil discourse on the new media. And for something completely different, Yoav, what do we do about those people who don't know and don't care and don't want to hear?
Yeah, well, what my colleagues have talked about, which is important, have talked about going on the offensive, but usually have talked about political stands, political issues, or Jewish issues. And what I said before about the person in the street not really caring and knows who's the good side or who's the bad side, we also want thought of a different way. And I'm saying again, it's not or their way or what I'm going to represent. It's and. We must do both. But we also want to give some kind of positive association with Israel. It doesn't have to explain anything. It doesn't have to sell anything. It doesn't have to be the political side or explain. It just got to people to watch it or do it and get some kind of positive experience with Israel. Have a smile. Not hear Israel all the time connected to war, chaos, Palestinians, but Israel connected to something different.
Can you give us an example from Latin America?
Well, one very successful example from Latin America is a YouTube viral video which started actually on Yom Ha'atzmaut, and it's again what I talked about combines exactly the positive reaction and the messenger. It's a YouTube video using local artists, local phenomenons. Again, I say we do not really understand the web today. The web today is a shock to us, and the best example is we just finished the most televised event in the world, the World Cup, the soccer World Cup, the Mundial. And Nike and Adidas have paid millions of dollars to Messi and to Cristiano Ronaldo and all to these places. And the story which got the most news, at least on the web, was an octopus from Germany who said, who will win? Paul the Octopus. So who would have guessed Paul the Octopus would be bigger than Messi or Ronaldo? If we would understand the web, believe me, he'd wear a Nike shirt. But we don't. So what we did here in Latin America, we looked for a common denominator in Latin America, and we saw that something very popular is these crazy web phenomenons of people singing local songs, very happy, danceable songs, about very serious subjects, like the 9/11 terror attack, for example. But they are a massive hit, millions of hits on the webs, and a really great buzz on the web. So what we see an example is somebody that we took these three phenomenons, and they sing a song which is pro-Israeli, a song which doesn't give a message or doesn't explain a lot, but it's a very catchy song which says, "How beautiful is Israel?" And the song became a massive hit. It broke YouTube records. I mean, when have you seen something pro-Israel which broke YouTube records? 500,000 views after a day, after a week, around 4 million views. It made the official site of Coca-Cola, Facebook blogs, fan videos. It's been on every local press media, on the news in Argentina, in Chile, in Mexico, in Univision in the US. It's something that's really, really amazing. And
Yoav, how about we show, don't tell?
Okay.
Can we ask David, our friend, to show us the video?
Keep an open mind.
Israel me da un sentimiento de tristeza.
Me nombras Israel y se me viene la guerra, el caos.
Me da mucho miedo. Y por la calle que puede haber explosivos.
Gente muy resignada.
El pueblo también.
¡No puede ser! ¡No!
Now, this is a shock, which won a lot of criticism, but also won a lot of praise. And the thing is, first of all, it's what I talked about before, the messenger. The messenger is credible. It's people who really sing and dance and are YouTube phenomenons, and they're telling that they like Israel. And the other thing is, it's catchy. It became very catchy. Today it's a wedding song, it's a club song, they do shows, and people are singing, how beautiful is Israel? So we didn't talk about politics, or we didn't tell them that we're right or wrong, but people have a positive reaction about Israel. When they think Israel, they sometimes remember this song and they give it a smile.
I think this is a perfect example of segmentation. While this may not be the height of everyone's fine artistic taste, this is something that people really listen to. A certain segment of the population really listens to this. Another segment of the population really listens to the bloggers that actually move the mainstream media agenda, as Noah said. Another segment yet listens to the legal efforts that Alejandro is promoting. And we believe we need to open the floor up to as many efforts as possible, targeted at as many segments as possible. So before we open the floor up for questions in this spirit of openness, we have with us some of the most influential leaders in Jewish communities around the world. What would you, each one of the panelists, ask them or encourage them to do within their community to be more effective with the new media? And Alejandro wanted to say something, so let's open with you.
I just want to add that in Latin America it's very difficult to get to everybody. The academic institutions are, especially are looking to the left, and there are a lot of anti-Semitism and anti-Israelism there. And this video get like 3,500,000 views in a single week, right? And that is a very important information because I think I want to add only one more thing, that the cost of these kind of actions are, you can explain better, right?
Well, the cost is very, very low, and there's no publicity cost. The cost, I can tell you, is around $10,000. That was it. And
divide that by 4 billion views.
And
how much did it cost per view?
And this is only YouTube views. We had Facebook blog, 11,000 blogs connecting to the video. I'm talking about 1 week, and Facebook fan sites, other things. One thing that was measured that was interesting in the normal media and in the comments in the web, that when you do usually pro-Israel things, you get comments like, "What are you talking about? Why Israel is beautiful? They're killing Palestinians. This is an apartheid state. How can you write it?" And so on and so forth. And we didn't get this reaction. Most of the reaction talked about this phenomenon in the web and how it's popular and how it's people said that it's bad culture. People said it's true culture. But you didn't see people saying commenting against Israel. People commented pro or for the song and loved the song and sent it to their friends, which was part of a successful campaign.
So last round of brief comments for the panelists before we open it up for questions or comments. Noah, what would you advise community leaders to do to be effective on digital media?
As you guys can probably tell, I'm the bad cop up here. These are the nice guys, and I'm the one who wants to push people. What I would, in keeping with that, what I would suggest is that on the issue of delegitimization in the new media, that this movement against Israel is being organized and plotted and conducted completely out in the open. There is no mystery here. These organizations and these personalities and people involved are actually masters of the new media. And one of the reasons that they've been able to mount such a successful campaign is precisely because of their skill in using Twitter and the internet and websites and YouTube and things like that. I strongly recommend, it doesn't take much, to familiarize yourself with the people who are involved in this and what they're doing. It's all out there. These guys love using Twitter. They're on Twitter all day long. You can follow them, planning their next moves. There's really no secret out there about what these guys are trying to do and what's motivating them and what their final goal is. And so if you want to, we talk about the delegitimization issue in this sort of very vague way, and say, these are bad guys, and they're saying all these mean things about Israel. You can go look at them and get very specific about what the human rights groups like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International are up to, the criticisms of them. There's excellent organizations like NGO Monitor and UN Watch who are involved in thoroughly analyzing this. There's lots of cliches about know your enemy, and it's very true. And in this case, we need to know our enemy. And so the first thing that, if we really want to take this issue on, the pro-Israel world needs to get really familiar with what we're up against.
Alejandro, what is your call for action?
Well, I'm not one of the good guys. I am the boring guy. I think that we have to establish that there are rules, and these rules are also for the internet, and we have to take into consideration that, for example, in Hispanic content, two-thirds of the content is anti-Semitism when you call the word Jew. So we have to start making the companies and the organizations who gave the platforms to this content being responsible for the content that they are letting to be on the internet. So we have to bring the rules for the real world where the words have meaning into the internet, to the virtual world. The word have to record the meaning, and the people have to be responsible for their writing or for what they are publishing, or in that case, what you are letting to somebody publish.
Yoav, how can we replicate your astounding viral success?
Well, first, I show this example, but what I say all the time, it's important to understand, it's not or what I do or what they do, it's and. Also, I do what they do, and also classic hasbara. These are all parallel routes which should work, and the new media allows us to do it. And when I talk about us, I'm talking about the young generation. I'm not ashamed. I'm only 33, but I often show my projects to my 18-year-old niece and nephew, because they are the ones who are much more in the internet than I am. And you, as community leaders, must cooperate with the younger generation, which understand this media, or at least are trying to understand this media. And give them the hand. Give them the hand to try. Give them the hand to do it. It's low cost. You can do a lot. You can attack. You can defend. You can do crazy things. And the other thing is keep an open mind. And last thing, I'm a Ministry of Foreign Affairs representative. So I'm saying we need to cooperate. Our mission is the same. And we need to cooperate. The ministry and official line is also today open-minded. Have the young people, have the community leaders, meet with the official representations. Let's try new things. Let's try also to work together.
Creating content is a necessary but not a sufficient condition. What is a sufficient condition is spreading it widely. We don't know exactly what causes one piece of content to catch fire as opposed to another, but someone blogging for themselves and their two friends is great and important and good for their own community, and we do not belittle that one bit. It's important. It's important to speak to your base in political terms as well, not just to your opponents. We need to do that. But we also need to try and spread out our word. And I think this is something we can try to do in our communities, is spread as much of this information as possible. Not only create it, but spread the stuff that other people are doing. Yes, we have another question over there.
Thank you very much. I'm glad that we're at this panel, because sometimes the more high-tech, cutting-edge youth are not always put on center stage, and it's extremely important, as mentioned and applauded before. On Facebook, just one of the medias, I have 2,985 friends. In doing so, it means pulling from places from the international softball community to the Maccabea Games, to university, to every aspect of life as you go back in your life and around it. The reason I say that is because by utilizing, you can do it not from today, but you can actually do it from a perspective where you're chiming in to your friends in the Christian world, in the Muslim world, in the Hindu world. I have 36 countries on board. Many of them are friends that came either through the media or came through different aspects at different stages of life. In doing so, yes, we count the world. How about the Rosh Hashanah video by the National Jewish Outreach Program? Has everybody seen that before? Fantastic. It just came out. It's an excellent video dealing with Judaism, but that automatically relates to the love of Israel, which they talk about as well. What about the yarmulke? The other day in Germany, as Tel Aviv went up 3-1, the guy pulled the yarmulke out of his sock and put it on his head, and we had an early Shabbat on the internet. Sports utilizing the Christian community and outside, because sometimes they can be our better ambassadors because they're coming from the outside. They're just not, even Shimon Peres is a Jewish person that is the president of Israel. And so you can reach so far. And by the way, he put up a channel about the beginning of the year that Chad Hurley was in town, and the president of YouTube, and he has his own channel, Shimon Peres does, because he realizes new media. In doing so, video, extremely important to utilize, not just the words of taking the time and reading, putting video in the background. The flotilla, where would Bibi, or where would Michael Oren, or where would Danny Alon be without the videos that were on board? And every unit, as mentioned before, inside of the IDF these days, 1 camera, 2 cameras, dealing with human shields, whatever the situation is, so that we have proof that it's not just word against word, but it's actually dealing with the video. It's dealing with the operation, or it's dealing with the war with Hezbollah. We have many lessons that have been learned, but we must be on the cutting edge of dealing with technologies. If it's with full, that we've talked about for years, broadcasts of our own type of broadcast that's disseminating information and videos along these lines. There's so much that can be done. We have to be on our toes. We have to be very, very proactive, smart, and just go for it. But a lot of dealing with videos, cameras, and being very, very positive in our messages, and being articulate, being intelligent, using intelligence. And I think that it's all possible. It's all sitting there, but we have to have that kind of an energetic, optimistic attitude.
So you have mentioned Nike. Your message is just do it.
You bet. I mean, we are Israel. And don't be like Eli Novershtern said. What are we afraid of? It's the truth. Go for it.
Wants to comment on
that? I want to comment. First of all, any video that I'm going to do from now on, I want you to speak. Your voice is amazing.
Thanks.
Second, that's true. What you say is true, and one of the things that I think we really advanced in the IDF, the foreign ministry, is the speed. Speed is very important. Having our side of the story told right away. We used to wait 3 days after, 2 days after. Now it's almost directly we get our story out there in videos, in blogs. But again, one of the things I said, it's and or, not or. We must also do something else, because again, the person on the street who doesn't really care about Israel, and that's the majority of the people, I mean, will not go into the IDF online, will not go into the ministry site, because for him, Israel is the bad side, it's propaganda. It doesn't matter. It's like if you now have a message from, in abroad, somewhere it's the same, but if there's a message now from the Iranian government, I'm not going to watch it. For me, it's tainted. For the public, it's tainted. So it is very important. It's very important to get it out there. Very important to get it out fast, which we have done and we are improving it. But on the other hand, it's also very important to get a different message out, a different spokesman out, not political and not an official figure. It's very important for the other public, for the general public.
So you have to talk to your base and energize your base. You have to address your detractors. But most of all, maybe, you have to address those that actually are in the middle, the persuadables. Again, basis of political campaigning. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Yes, to Yoav. When you were introduced, it was said that you work specifically with the Latin American population of the United States. What do you do for them?
Well, I work in Argentina. I'm in charge of press and Asbara and culture in Argentina, in the Embassy of Argentina. But we also have a center for information which sends out information in Spanish to Latin America, but as well it gets to our representatives, to the Israeli representatives in the U.S. And that is today to Miami, Houston, and L.A., and also to Madrid. But it's mostly everything we publish. We do hard copy publishes. We had a book about Tel Aviv, or we had a book about culture in Israel, festivals in Israel. But we also translate news articles that are important, messages, IDF spokesperson messages, ministry messages, and we give it out to the embassies, and they send it out to the public.
And this is another great example of segmentation. The largest minority in the United States is actually speaking Spanish. We need to speak to them in Spanish. Any other questions or comments? Yes, please.
This is not so much about electronic devices, media. It's in general Hasbara, maybe. As the European Jewish Congress, we were approached by an Israeli company some time ago that we should organize a Jewish pop idol. So maybe this is a good idea to do it now over internet media.
Well, we're very happy to see and hear the breadth of creative ideas, and that is very much in the spirit of what we try to do in the World Jewish Diplomatic Corps, find new and creative ways to address this challenge. And if there are no other questions or comments, I see that Governor Fisher is entering in perfect timing, so please join me in thanking our panelists.
I want to give